You know, May has really been the month of people recommending me super critically acclaimed writers that somehow I had always avoided reading their books, only for that book to come out. It sort of underperforms and they go, all right, I'm sorry you took my word for it. Check out their older stuff and you'll see why they're so loved. And like, the books are still good. It's just not living up to the hype of the name behind it. Hi, and welcome back to Orbiting the Shelf, where today I am talking about Written on the Dark by Guy Gavriel Kay. This one came super highly recommended to me. Everybody, when I did the May TBR video back in like end of April, was like, oh dude, Guy Gavriel Kay and Joe Abercrombie, May is a stacked month. Ultimately just for the books to come out and people go, the other works were better, but this one was still good. So I got two sort of unfair introductions into two really famous authors in the month of May. But with that being said, let's just jump right into it. This is going to be a short review, I promise. I know what you're thinking. This dude coming at me again, just going to ramble about themes and character development and subplots for 20 minutes. I promise it'll be short. I promise it'll be sweet. I promise it'll be to the point this time. Hold on, wait a second. You right there. What's that on your coffee table? I see that. That's a Colleen Hoover book. And the bookmark is 3/4 of the way through? Brother, ew.
Ugh. Brother, ugh. What's that? What's that, brother?
What is wrong with you? Oh, I can't believe you would read something like that. What are you even doing here? Gross. But don't worry. I won't tell anybody. Your secret's safe with me. I won't tell anybody that you're a Colleen Hoover enjoyer. The movie with Blake Lively just came out. I understand. Maybe you just wanted to catch up. Maybe you just wanted to know what all the buzz was about. I will keep your secret. If you go ahead, like, subscribe, and stay tuned in for at least half of the video. And I won't say a word. Secret's safe with me. Lips sealed, key dropped. I won't tell anybody you're reading Colleen Hoover right now. I'm wiping it from my memory. I didn't see it. Anyways, jumping right into the review. Written on the Dark by Guy Gavriel Kay. You don't want any spoilers. You don't even want to read the back of the book. You want to go into this blind. You merely want a rating. Well, with that being said, I rate things on my scale of 1 through 10. No need to over-explain it. I talk about it every video. You can see it right there. 1 bad, 10 good, 5 average. Don't be mean to 5s, all right? 5 is good. 5 is where most things lie. If, most. All right, it's not a grading system. A 5 is not a fail, and 90 is not an A, and 80 is not a B. All right, anything higher than 5 is pretty darn good, so keep that in mind. Now, with that being said, what were my thoughts on this book? Written on the Dark by Guy Gavriel Kay. Obviously, a super hyped up release. Lots of expectations surrounding it, being that the author is relatively well known. Lots of well-received, critically acclaimed fantasy books. I gave this book a strong 6.5 out of 10. And before you get mad, that's not a bad rating. That's not a bad rating around here, all right? That's a good rating.
Let's get it. Hold on.
Calm down, put down your pitchforks, put down your torches, let me explain. But with that being said, if that is absolutely all you need to know, and before I dive into it, as always, I buy the audiobook, I buy the book itself, and I always tell you if it's worth your Audible credit, your shelf space, your money, and in this case, I think it is. If you enjoy Guy Gavriel Kay, you know what you're getting into. If you enjoy fantasy, if you enjoy historical fiction, things in that realm, you're gonna enjoy it, bar none. It's gonna be worth your time, it's gonna be worth your money, it's gonna be worth your shelf space. How is the audiobook? I would give the audiobook an A-. It was very well produced. There's no weird sounds. The narrator is well spoken. The only reason I'm giving it an A- is because it doesn't bring a performance to the book. You're not necessarily getting a different experience with the audiobook. The audiobook isn't bringing anything to life in a special way. It just kind of reminds me of like the audiobooks you would get from the library on CDs back in the day. It's well done. It serves a purpose. It's nothing special. I think you could go either way. Honestly, this is one of the few books I would prefer to read rather than listen to. And if you're like me and you listen to audiobooks in your car most of the time because you commute a lot, you're probably not going to enjoy this one. At least in my sound system in my vehicle, the audiobook was very bassy. I had to go into the settings and turn the bass all the way down, something I end up doing for a lot of male narrators. Pro tip if you didn't know that, because I feel like their voices sort of muddle the words. It kind of gives me a headache. It's hard to listen to. So overall, the audiobook is hovering in B+, A- territory. The narrator was fine. The audiobook was fine. Is it worth your Audible credit? Probably not. I would just go ahead and read this one. Unless you only consume books via audio, totally acceptable. Go ahead. You're not going to regret it. You're just not getting anything special with this one. Okay, it's all out there. You have all the information you need. If this is truly all you need, Godspeed, I bless you on your way. Come back to the video when you're done and let me know your thoughts on this. As always, I love hearing from you guys, love talking to you guys. Even if your opinions are harsh and don't match mine, totally fine. There's a reason this review is subjective. Now, we can go ahead and jump into the things I liked, things I didn't like. Right off the bat, things I liked. This was an interesting book. Guy Gavriel Kay definitely has a signature prose, a signature writing style, and a signature voice. He is very unmistakable, and this being my first book by him, I can definitely see what people are talking about when they say he is poetic and very like a strong narrator voice when you're reading his books in this third person point of view. This book was strange, all right? It was like someone was telling you a story, and that sounds weird because all books are just someone telling you a story, right? But it was like you were laying in bed, tucked in, tight, cozy, and your mom was sitting in a chair across the room reading you a storybook. It was a very unique feel, a very unique vibe, and something I'll definitely come back for. I enjoyed it greatly. I enjoyed the writing. It's easy to imagine characters. It's easy to imagine scenes. It's easy to imagine the surrounding. It's easy to immerse yourself in the world. This is one of the most important things when it comes to writing fantasy. If you're writing fantasy and you can't submerse a viewer in your world, you're failing at something. Guy Gavriel Kay definitely exceeds here. So if that makes sense, it feels like a story is being told to you verbally. It's like you're experiencing a storytelling rather than reading a book and having a little bit of agency in it, if that makes sense. It feels like I'm being railroaded in the story. It feels like I'm not participating in it too much. It's almost like I'm being recounted a set of events that have already happened and I have like no say in imagining or thinking about things. It's really hard. It's an intangible feeling to explain when it comes to Guy Gavriel Kay's writing. If you've read his books and you feel the way I feel, by all means let me know. I want to know I'm not crazy and just rambling about some nonsense here. But to sum it all up, it feels like you're being told a story. It's unique, it's fun, I'd highly recommend it, and I think it's something that I've only experienced in his books. If you told somebody you liked fantasy books, this is kind of what they would imagine. The sort of narrator spinning a fantastical tale. Granted, it's very grounded in reality. It's just an interesting reading experience is all I'm trying to get at. One that I enjoyed, but I bet is a point of contention for a lot of fantasy readers. I could definitely see people not enjoying this style of writing, this prose, and this experience. Granted, I did, and this is the only book I've ever looked at Goodreads that has only one-star review with absolutely no explanation and almost no 2-star reviews. I just thought that was interesting. Never in my life have I seen a book with almost no bad reviews. But moving on to other things I liked, the world was unique. It's obviously heavily inspired by French history, French culture. It was really cool, really fun. Guy Gavriel Kay did an absolutely amazing job at making you feel every single tavern the story took place in, every single dungeon, every single castle, every single court. You could feel the tension and interactions. This is all just to say I absolutely enjoyed the world Guy Gavriel Kay spins here for the audience. I enjoyed the story. I enjoyed the sort of like romance side plot. Overall, it was a good experience. I have very few bad things to say. Moving on to things I don't like. Like I said, it was going to be a short one. I had very few feelings about this book. As far as things I didn't like, I kind of felt like the pacing was a little strange here. It felt like it slinkied, if you know what I mean. Sometimes it would get real slow and it would drag out and then it would get real fast. And then it would get slow and get fast again. And so that was sort of the whole book. I was kind of like, man, we've spent a lot of time talking about theory or Terry or Cherry or however you say his name in French speak, in baguette language. I absolutely cannot pronounce French words whatsoever unless I listen to the audiobook. I believe it was kind of like a chéri, a chéri type of deal. I called him Theory as I was reading the book, not listening to the audiobook. Theory. In my head, he's Theory Villar. Anyways, the pacing was kind of weird, and sometimes it felt like the book almost meandered, like there wasn't a super strong driving force. It felt almost like a tech demo, if you know what I'm talking about, in the world of video games, where we're sort of just being shown beautiful events in the world folding out. We're taking a peek from the window into the events unfolding before us, and that's what I mean when it felt like I didn't have a lot of agency here as a reader, and it felt more like a historical recounting of events to me. It didn't feel as interactive as other books feel, and you're gonna say, Matt, what in the f*** do you mean? Books are railroaded stories. They are a one-way stop. How do you interact with a book? How do you have agency within a book? And I would say go back and search like Brandon Sanderson reader agency, and that sort of explains what I'm trying to get at here. It didn't feel like I was a part of the story, like I was really enjoying it in depth. It felt like I was in history class listening to a very interesting lecture, and this isn't even necessarily a dooming knock. It just didn't feel as enthralling as other books on a personal level. Now, judging from the overall reception of this book I've heard from other people, it seems like most others feel the same way. Like this isn't necessarily Guy Gavriel Kay's strongest work. If anything, this felt like a story he kind of had to get out because he was really obsessed with this point in like medieval French history, and I'm sure that there's like historical events that inspire this, considering how often I hear people talk about the historical nature of it, and it felt like he was really inspired to write a story based around these events, hence why it probably feels more like a recounting than a story you're able to interact with. And so overall, it was a book. It was a fantasy book. It was a fantasy book I don't regret, but was definitely well written, definitely better than your average, run-of-the-mill fantasy book capitalizing on a hot market. It was obviously written with love. It was obviously written with skill. It was executed well. It just felt a little bit too clinical to me. Every single time I record a video, this fucking train runs by. Anyways, you're gonna say, Matt, how does it feel clinical if you just said in the things you like that it feels poetic, it feels fluid and interesting? And I don't know. It's just like a historical recounting told through poetry. It was such a strange experience, but one I liked, one I sort of kind of disliked. But at the end of the day, I'm walking away from this book glad I read it. It was a fun introduction to Guy Gavriel Kay. I kind of get what all the hype was about. I'm a little bit sad, just like with the Joe Abercrombie book I read this month, that it didn't quite live up to the expectations of the author's previous work. But overall, I don't think you're gonna hate this book. I think you're gonna read it and you're gonna go, okay, that was interesting. It was like you described a fantasy book to someone who doesn't read fantasy, and if they opened up this book, they'd be like, yep, that's fantasy. It was all right. I'm glad I read it. I'm okay that I spent the money on the book and the audiobook. I just didn't leave impressed. It's not something I'll come back and visit. It's not something I'll be driving to school next year and I'll think to myself randomly, man, that story really meant something to me. These characters really meant something to me. I might go back and revisit this. No, that'll never happen, but it was done so well, despite all my complaints, that it's earning itself a 6.5, which essentially means it's well above average, on its way to excellent, but there's just a few things holding it back, and it really does seem like most people who review this book are kind of sharing my thoughts on it. So I'm hoping not to get too much hate, and it definitely encouraged me to go back and read some of his other work. Do I think you'll have a good time with this book? Probably. Absolutely. I read this book in the cold, rainy nights we're having in Southwest Colorado right now at like 11, bundled up in the covers on my Kindle, and it was a vibe, Like, it's cold, it's almost always nighttime in the book, it's winter pretty much throughout the book, and it was a vibe. It was fun. If you're a reader who really enjoys vibes, you'll really enjoy this book. So at the end of the day, it's walking away with a strong 6.5. I don't have a whole lot of thoughts about it, and I will see you next time. I will hopefully be getting a review out on a couple more books before this month, and there's a couple of really big ones that release that are going to take up my time, and I am in the absolute trenches of editing. We're almost halfway done. I'm this close, so some of my attention's been taken away from YouTube. But if you made it through the whole video, I appreciate you. I love you. Mucho gracias. I hope you come back. Tell me what your thoughts are on this book, where I'm wrong, where I'm right, where you agree, where you disagree. If I'm a idiot, go ahead and let me know. But I appreciate you nonetheless. Thank you so much, and I will see you next time. Bye.